Thank you so much for taking your time to speak to ET now. I just wanted to understand mainly on the macro front, lot has changed while we have a stable government at the center, and we also have the sentiments that are improving. So do you think that the growth prospects for India are looking up, and could we clock in a growth of maybe 5.5 to 6% this fiscal?
I think so. I think a lot of good things have happened, as you already enumerated. That we have a stable government. They have worked on various issues which like policy paralysis, better policies, better coordination, unclogging the projects, and you are seeing the effects, and at the same time they have better coordination with the Reserve Bank of India. So on a combined basis, I think you're seeing an uptick in the GDP. I think inflation has come to some control, could be better, and the prospects in the, I'd say this year around the 5.5 or thereabouts is very feasible, and then depending upon the policies that they form linked to what they've already said, we could do 6 thereafter and maybe 7+ thereafter.
Okay, and as far as the measures are concerned, do you think that some more measures that the government needs to take to bring India back to the high growth path? Some sectors that the government needs to focus on? What are your views on that?
No, I think there's a lot of measures that they have to take, and I think they've specified them. They have to reduce the fiscal deficit by bringing in more money, and they're working on the GST. They have to rationalize the subsidies. One will happen by getting it to the right people and initiating the direct benefit transfer, which is getting a lot of effort. The other will be, with a bit of luck, the low oil price. They clearly want a lot more exports, for which the dollar rupee would help, and they're not letting it strengthen too much. I wouldn't say not letting it strengthen too much, but it's remaining within a range because of good policies. And then you have the revisions required in the agriculture policy. You need to make business easier. You need to attract foreign investment. So they've said all this. I believe they're working very hard, and now they'll declare it, I presume, as we go by.
But as far as the external sector risk is concerned, we are still seeing that some amount of risk is there, and we are also sooner or later going to see the rates in US as well as the advanced economies inching up. So do you think that India, in relation to other emerging economies, is little better placed than them, or are we still little vulnerable to that side?
No, I think I'd written on this that India is an outlier. I think between a combination of the fact that our current account deficit is under control, our reserves are increasing, our exports are doing well, and that the quantitative easing largely has played out as far as India is concerned, I think we don't have so much of a risk on the dollar rupee front, and that's how it's perceived everywhere, both internally and externally.
And as far as inflation is concerned, it clearly is the biggest risk to growth right now. And when we last met, you did tell me that you agree with Governor Rajan's stance of keeping rates high, at least for now. So, but do you think that his target of reaching 6% CPI inflation by January 2016 is a bit aggressive, and it could harm growth? And should we brace ourselves for higher interest rate regime in the next year also?
You're taking me into very slippery territory. No, see, the point is like this. If you look at inflation dispassionately, what he had said is 8%, we came to the 8%. In fact, we're slightly below the 8%. CPI, 8%, WPI 6%, slightly below. The only joker in the pack has been food inflation. But the benefit that will come now is much lower fuel. Yeah. So they are expecting that the food inflation, which normally, I don't know why, always around this time of the year, tomatoes go through the roof, onions go through the roof, all of that, and then all of a sudden, first quarter, they turn all right. So they're expecting that that should come under control. If oil price remains where it is, and if, as expected, the food inflation comes down, then fiscal deficit will also come down, which creates a very fertile environment for a reduction in interest rate. Whether it's 6 months or 12 months, I'll leave it to better persons than me, i.e. Dr. Rajan.
View?
My view is irrelevant.
Do you see that the rates could fall going into...
I gave you a big hypothesis. With the caveat, my view is unimportant. It's Dr. Rajan's view that counts. So ask him if he agrees with me.
Okay, but if we should focus to the banking sector, one thing that has remained in focus is the asset quality of banks. It's been 2 years. All we've been talking about and focusing on is the asset quality. But as far as HDFC Bank is concerned, you're much better placed than many of the banks. Actually, you are the best placed. Maybe some amount of...
Could I say we have no problem?
Yeah. Maybe just on the retail side, there was a little bit of in the second quarter we saw a little bit. That's hardly
that's
not
not a
very
problem.
significant.
That's within standard deviation.
Exactly. So I wanted to get your view as far as the entire banking sector is concerned. Do you think that the asset quality picture is going to look better going ahead, or you think that the pressures are going to continue at least for some more time?
The first one is easier to answer than the second one. I think it's going to definitely look better, because as the economy picks up and as the projects get unclogged, then the restructuring aspect, which is almost half of your NPA, by definition has to get better. And a lot of the problems that have come are also because the economy is slowed down substantially. So if the economy picks up, yes, they will go down. But I would also like to state that under no circumstances should there be any feeling that there is a crisis in the sector. It's a matter of concern, and I think we're probably close to the bottom or worst or whatever you call it, and should look better from here.
Supreme Court passed a landmark judgment against coal and power sector, which could impact them in a significant way. And banks, especially PSU banks, overall have around 5 lakh crore exposure to these two sectors. Do you think that could further worsen asset quality going forward?
No, I think we really, we always like to go hop, skip and jump. So if we can just hop at this point of time, this judgment would be good, because large portion of the coal mines are not operational. Some of them that are operational, I'm sure they will be able to work out an appropriate and correct solution. So in the long run, this is good. In the short run, I think it should not translate into such dire consequences, because not all of them have had problems. So this is consequent to a public interest litigation. I don't think that scenario will arise.
And if you were to focus about HDFC Bank per se, the markets are very used to your bank always clocking in a profit of 30% every quarter. Past few quarters, that has not happened. So do you think they're being a little unfair and they're expecting too much from you, especially when economy itself is in a slow growth phase?
No, the market is doing quite well by us. If you look at our ADR, it's at a 21% premium. That's the highest premium I've seen for any shares. So the market continues to love us. I don't know about you. But the fact of the matter is that as we go forward, we've always said that there are two components to our growth rate. One is the market share we gain, two is the additional distribution that we put in, and three is the GDP. So if the GDP goes down, by definition, I can't achieve the same growth rate much as I would want to with a 7.5% GDP and a 4.5% GDP. So the construct that we have always been saying, hopefully with some success, we've had more success with investors than we've had with the media, is GDP into 3.2 plus 4 to 6. See, you know it.
You said this.
Yeah, you know it, but you don't want to. You want to carry on with your question. I'll answer the same way. Okay.
Okay. No, but if you were to focus on corporate demand, I've spoken to a number of bankers. They're saying that it's very muted right now. Even if the sentiments have picked up, but they're not really seeing anything happen on the ground. I wanted to get your sense on this. When would we see really the demand coming up for new projects? How much more time? What is keeping corporates away from the banking sector still?
No, I don't think corporates are away from the banking sector. We are seeing demand on the consumer side, and we are seeing some pickup on the corporate side, but on working capital. Investment demand by definition, Simran, when it will come progressively. So first the sentiment has to change, then people have to be seeing that demand is exceeding supply and they need to create supply. Then they have to conceive the project, then they have to close the project, etc. By the time that really starts to affect the economy and the GDP is at least 12 months. So are we seeing green shoots in in terms of investment? Probably not. Are we seeing positive sentiment? Yes. And will it move to green shoots? I think there's a very good probability, but it'll take 12 months. And that is why when we started off, I told you that this year GDP is 5.5. That 5.5 is based upon the fact that if you just get the projects unstuck and you get some amount of movement in various areas, infrastructure and government spending, which had been stopped last year at all, that will give you almost 40 to 50 basis points increase. And at the same time, they're working on the second aspect, which should bring investment in. And that's the delta when fully operational, which would only be about 18 months from now, it goes to the 6% plus.
And in terms of your focus areas, what will be the key focus areas for HDFC Bank going forward? And will retail continue to play a major role when it comes to your loan book growth?
See, we straddle the economy. So if you take India's economy, when you take C plus I plus G, consumption is almost 55%. In our portfolio also, we have consumption between 50 and 55%, depending upon where the economy is. So if the economy grows, we grow. We don't just necessarily focus. So we are a play on India. That's one side. When we are a play on India, there are two parts to it that we've added in the last 2-3 years. The cliche is there are two Indias. There's India and Bharat. Yeah. So Bharat has not been fully serviced by organized finance. The organized finance penetration there is varying estimates, 10, 12, 15. So in the last 3 years or 4 years, we've taken a large amount of our products, services into semi-urban and rural India, where 60% of the population lives. That population, if we are to not have political, social and economic problems, has to come up. And we think we've taken a very good decision. I'm sure you read the latest Mint and all the other news. Eco Times covered us very well on that, that we are the most valuable brand given our branding in large parts of India which have not been serviced by financial services. So that's one part. The second is we are really going through a digital revolution. That you overlay the fact that 65% of our people will be under the age of 35. So a lot of them will want to, people like you who will want to deal online. You, my daughter, you don't understand physical stuff. It's all online. So that's the second area. Okay. And there is what we talked about earlier, the fundamental growth in the short and medium term. So we will participate in all of this. And we are also participating in substituting the money lender, and we are also building up a viable business at the bottom of the pyramid with our sustainable livelihood.
One thing that everyone is waiting for eagerly is the FIPB approval coming. When will it come to increase the foreign shareholding? So on that front, the meetings are expected to happen sometime early next week. We understand that you've submitted a new proposal to them. So are you hopeful that this time around there will be no problem and you will finally...
Hindi mein kya bolte hain? Dunya hope par kaim hai. So we are very hopeful.
So, but we all are very used to the fact that these things take a lot of time. They can get delayed for forever. So what is your plan in the time being?
No.
What is your plan?
We have tremendous faith in this government. Okay. And under the new dispensation, I think it will happen within a reasonable time. Okay. So we don't need a plan B.
So nothing. And as far as the main problem out here is your parent company HDFC. They are saying that it is more like it's more of a foreign company. So that's the main problem. So how are you going to deal with that particular issue?
We made a proposal. I think we're coming along to a common ground. Okay. So, and since we're very close to final decision to be given by them, let us say I will live on hope.
And as far as your fundraising plans are concerned, just wanted to get a sense on that. You've already got shareholder and board approval for 10,000 crore of capital raising. So going forward, are you looking at tapping the market anytime soon? Any overseas bond raising, anything on the cards?
So if you look at that resolution, it says it's an enabling resolution. We have capital adequacy in excess of 16.5%. So do we need capital immediately? No. Would we need capital in the next 9 to 18 months? Yes. Exact timing will depend upon our growth rate.
As far as infra bonds are concerned, our banks say that they have incentive because it's exempt from SLR and CRR. So a lot of them are also testing waters by going in for small issuances. Wanted to understand from your side, does it have that appetite that bankers are expecting it could have? Does it make sense to go for it?
Yeah. See, the reason it was introduced is very simple. Normally, large projects go to the debt market for financing. It is unlikely that we will have a debt market in the next 12 to 18 months. But it's very likely that we will have substantial demand for infrastructure. If banks are to fulfill that demand at a reasonable price, then we have to get exemption on SLR, CRR. So I think the demand for infrastructure will come, the demand for these bonds will be there, and I think it's a good step.
So will you also be looking at...
Of course.
Okay, but I also understand that you've gone to Japan, so just wanted to understand what kind of investor sentiment are you seeing there, especially towards India, and are you looking at any expansion plans in Japan? Is there anything there on the card?
Let me cover the first two. We probably have to look more for doing the Japanese business in India. Firstly, the Japanese trip was fantastic. It was a real revelation because Mr. Modi is a rock star there.
Okay.
So when we went there, and that's because of the general feeling is that he has an excellent relationship with their Prime Minister Abe. So when we went there, if we expected 2 people for meetings, there were 20. So all of them are waiting with a lot of expectations to come to have mutually beneficial relationships. Talking to the senior leaders, they have rightly identified that over the long run, Japanese population is going down, so their demand will go down, but they have a lot of supply. Our population is going up. We need a lot of supply. We need infrastructure, all of that. And I think if they feel that the 2 prime ministers have a common ground, that we should be able to create a lot of good business. I think we should be able to, and the enthusiasm is palpable. So it's just needed to be converted into reality. And so I think we'd be better off focusing on the Japanese business coming into India, on the Japanese investors coming into India. We've built our relationships. We've been going for the last 3-4 years, but we thought this was an opportune time, and we are equally thrilled. I hope it works out as anticipated.
And keeping it with the expansion plans, wanted to get a sense about your organic as well as the inorganic expansion plans. It's been over 5 years that you last acquired Centurion Bank of Punjab. After that, we haven't really seen. And again, this whole issue of consolidation in the banking sector has come up, with the finance minister also supporting the idea. So just wanted to get a sense on that from you, because I'm sure there are a lot of small and mid-sized banks who will be willing to get acquired by HDFC Bank. So,
but we must also want. No,
so are you ready for another acquisition?
Are
you ready for another acquisition?
See, 2 parts you must understand. That an acquisition, unless it can change, make a substantial difference to our size, actually is too much of a pain. So acquiring a small bank at this point of time would actually be counterproductive for us in terms of trying to sort it out and union and systems, etc. We could probably grow as much as that small bank. With the effort that we put in, we could grow twice as fast organically. So if anything is to happen, it has to be medium or large scale. There are not too many of those kinds available. But coming to your point as to what the finance minister said, I think that's more relevant, because he owns 70% of the banking system. My own view, I think the number of public sector banks should be probably 6 or 7, because they'd be able, primarily because, one, it would give them more capability to go to the market, but more importantly, it would allow them to take the right decisions to bring them in terms of their service level, systems, procedures, compensation, all of that. So I think consolidation in the public sector space would probably be needed.
And this brings me to my next question. HDFC and HDFC Bank merger. This time I'm going to put it in a different way. Maybe I get the answer that I'm looking for.
Try once again.
So you have said that only if it makes business sense will you look at it.
Not only me, Parikar said the same
all
thing
of you,
to
all the stakeholders. So what factors can prompt this move? What are the pros and cons for this merger? That's what I would like to understand.
See, the pros and cons are a little premature to answer the pros and cons, but there are certain regulatory constraints, which we've been saying for the last 15 years, that once those regulatory constraints like SLR, CRR, holding company, taxation, all of those. So some of those have been sorted out. Some more need to be sorted out. When they're sorted out, I will be the first one to come back and tell you now it's sorted out. At this point of time, there is nothing on the table.
Nothing at all?
Nothing at all.
Okay. And another thing I wanted to ask you in terms of this expansion plan is your overseas expansion plan. Out there, you're one of the very few large players who are not very significantly present overseas. But going forward, would you like to go aggressive on overseas expansion? Not
really. If you really look, and if you see history, we were at the show with Martin Sorrell, and in fact that's what he said, that if you have demand in your own country, it's better to catch that demand, because you can access it more profitably, build your brand, build your strength, and then go overseas when you're very clear. So in the next few years, we don't have a major overseas expansion plan, largely because at this point of time, there's not so much Indian business overseas as well. There is the Tata Jaguar, and there's a few of them. But we are very big in the NRI business. We are large in intermediating in trade. But to go out and become a major bank in any country, I think we have ambitions, but not for the next 3 years, which will be spent in building our brand, taking banking to where it is not there in India, because that's a tremendous market.
You have really done a great job by bringing this
now you want me to go?
No, from scratch to where it is today. It's the best in the business today. But what lies ahead for HDFC Bank once Mr. Puri decides to move on? If you could give a sense of your success.
But why are you so convinced that I'm moving
No,
on?
no. One day all of us have to move on in life.
Now I can answer your question.
So
if your question is that are the systems in HDFC Bank robust? Yes. Is there tremendous amount of delegation? Yes. Do we have an excellent workforce? Yes. Are there internal candidates for my job? Yes. Are there external candidates for my job? Yes. Am I planning to leave at the moment? No. Is there any regulation that tells me to? No. Is there a recommendation? Yes.
Okay.
When all these things sort out, I give you the answer.
Okay.
But at the moment, I look like I'm fit, competent, and happy.
Yeah. Certainly, even the bank will be happy and all of us will be happy that if you continue for many more years. But I just wanted to understand, again, I'm going to get you back to this question. Is the board okay, comfortable with external candidates as well as internal?
It has not reached that stage.
It has not reached that stage. Okay.
But the board, by definition, will look for the best guy.
Okay.
Now, whether it's internal or external is actually not relevant. But we have both.
Okay. And moving on, I'm going to ask you this question again, and I know you're going to tell me how many times do I give you this answer. That's on ATM. All the PSU bankers I've spoken to lately are saying when it comes to charging their own customers for using their own ATMs, they're not going to do it. Third party, they will go ahead and charge, just like the way you said. So just wanted to understand from you, will you charge your own customers also? You're doing both third party as well as your own customers?
We'll look at it. For people, okay. For people like you who use it like chana, no, we will charge.
No.
Everybody else uses it 4 times a month. You use it 5 times. Now chana and ATM is different.
So, but you're still taking a call on whether you...
We will take a call, and we will not ever be against the interests of our customers.
Okay.
But we need to, the youngsters who are not using it properly, we have to educate them.
Exactly, that's true. But what is the reason behind why bankers have said that they need to go ahead and charge? I agree that the IBA had told me that the cost is somewhere running around 4,000 to 5,000 crores when it comes to ATMs for the entire sector. But what exactly prompted you to do this?
Okay. So let me explain this, because somehow the media
the consumers are not really understanding.
Let me first explain. Yeah. So average balance that somebody maintains in his savings account would be what? 5,000, 7,000 rupees? Say on 7,000 rupees, I earn 5%. Is that what I'm going to earn on it?
Yeah.
5% on 7,000 comes to how much? 10% is 700. 5% is 370. Divided by 12 is 30 rupees a month. Correct? For that, you want me to safeguard your money. You want me to pay you 4%. You want me to give you a checkbook. You want me to give you an ATM card. You want me to give you ATMs all around the country. You pay 30 bucks. How much does a pound cost?
5 rupees, no, 10 rupees.
10 rupees, 1 pound. You don't want to pay me 30 bucks for using it 25 times and making me go for a loss. It's because we want to teach youngsters and be nice. So if it's 15 rupees per ATM transaction that you use, even my internal cost, and you use it 20 times, 15 into 20 is how much? In 1 month you're taking me into a loss. So I want to be very clear that in India, banking charges are very low compared to the rest of the world. The media keeps asking. Please understand, if you don't have healthy banks with appropriate charges, you won't have anybody to give you a loan, and you won't lend for infrastructure. And we are an integral part of society and good citizens. Now I answered your question.
I'll take that answer.
But
for sure.
Again, you'll ask me next time or no? Or you'll think about it?
My
okay,
answer
good.
Finally.
Good.
And lastly, before we finish the interview, I wanted to congratulate you for being tagged as the best and the most valuable company in India. So what makes HDFC Bank stand apart from the rest of the bank?
See, actually what came out is that we are the most valuable brand. Yeah. And most people thought that financial services actually cannot differentiate itself, and so you couldn't build up a different brand. But if you see the citation that Miller and has given the company, if you see the citation that they given, it says that we built a brand on the basis of customer touch point and the experience he gets, on the basis of clearly defining who we are as a brand, what the customer needs from our brand, and being able to deliver it to him when he wants, how he wants, where he wants. In addition to the fact that we've gone into semi-urban and rural India, where we have also met a corporate responsibility. So we're very happy that our efforts to, one, define clearly who we are, coupled with the intangibles of safety, security, integrity, etc. Who we are a financial services company that wants to meet all your needs on a hassle-free basis. This is on when you go, you know, purpose, product, price. That's our purpose. Our product is to meet all your needs in a fair, transparent manner at the right price. And on a combination established with you, come to HDFC Bank is the right place to go.
All right. With that, we end this interview. It was a pleasure talking to you, Mr. Puri. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.